Now, if we look around this side here, where the red rag is, now, you remember the spring where we took the little clip out? This is the spring and the rod and the control valve. Now, this little rod here has a ball at the other end of it. So later on, when you try and put the pump back on and try and hook all this up and just put that clip in from underneath, it doesn't quite work like that. Because this is on a ball, it's a spherical end on it. Actually, that even looks a little bit bent. There's a spherical end on it. It's best off to put the T-piece or the crossbar on with the spring and the pin, and then you've just got to spread the legs to get it on. So that control valve, that's your main hydraulic control valve. Now, the early ones didn't have this piece on it. This was a later thing. And that sits up into the pump. There's a plate that we'll show you later. And as the pump works, that just oscillates back and forth. And the idea, I believe, with that was from time to time these control valves would stick in the bore, and because it was spring loaded here, you know, you could push it to lift, and yeah, things just wouldn't happen sometimes. It wouldn't go forward where it should have been. So, and of course it's down the bottom of the pump where all the muck is, and that's where all the rubbish, that's the lowest point, that's where all the rubbish gets there. So they brought this little oscillation in, so while ever the pump's running, it'll just be running back and forth like that. And the idea of it running back and forth like that was it wouldn't get stuck in the bore. Now, I have no idea of the history of this pump. It should have a relief valve in there. It just doesn't look quite right to me. I'm not sure. I'll just pull that out. Yep, it is in there. And that's your main pressure relief valve. So they changed this over time. Like they had the relief valve, they had some with holes in them. They had some with a little shield coming out over here. So when the relief valve relieved the main pump pressure, it didn't squirt out here and stir up all the oil, you know, around all the rubbish and stir all the rubbish up for the pump to pick up again. So they did quite a few changes to this relief valve over time. So look, that's it for getting the pump out for the moment and having a quick chat about it. I'll pop that back in there. We'll go and pressure clean the pump, tidy it all up, clean the bench, and when we come back, we'll work through putting a complete hydraulic pump rebuild kit in this. Okay, I've got the pump on the bench here now. I've given it a bit of a wash in the parts washer. It's still not 100% clean yet, but it's clean enough for us to pull it apart and just check things out. I gave the main control valve, I gave that a bit of a bath over there in the parts wash. So we'll pop him over to the side there. Our relief valve that we had out before, we'll get rid of that. We'll take him out. Now, the thing to look for on this is to see whether it has a worn seat. And look, it does a little bit, but you could possibly, you could possibly lap that in if you had to, but we'll just see. We'll see how it goes, see what the seat's like. We'll pop that over there. Now this is the back of the pump here, where these plugs are here. So, I don't know, I suppose what we should do, and what we may do, I'll just grab a centre punch and we'll just centre punch this housing here, just so we know these caps go on the same place. And by centre punching them, well, we just know how they go back together. So we'll put one mark there, and we'll put two on this side. Whoop. So there we go. We have a couple of centre punch marks. That'll help us with our orientation of the whole thing. So I suppose in the kit now, we have a Sparex, an S61325 Sparex rebuild kit. and it has new S74010 pistons. And what I've noticed in the kit, it doesn't give you new valve chambers, this particular kit, but it gives you all the springs and the valves and all that to set up in here. So by doing that, we know we've got to take this top off. Now, I have seen other kits where you just pull this off, throw it away, and away you go. So we'll just see how we go. I'll just bring this camera up and over and in a little bit further. Try and keep you in frame so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so first up, the old 1116 socket on the Makita gun again. We'll just loosen those off. And you can see the spring pressure there, they're wanting to come up. So if we have the pump, let's always keep the back towards us, and that's the front. We'll try and keep all these valves and the caps and all in the place we'd like them to be, or in the same side that they come out of. So we have a retainer, then that's a little leather seal on that. I can't remember doing a pump with that in it like that, but anyway, I never stop learning. Hopefully you learn along with me. There's a little leather cup. That's, like, often they just had an O-ring in here, so, and some of them just had a gasket under there, so that's new to me. I'm always learning something new. The last pump we did up was out of a 1948, so if I can bring them over there, they're just in the picture there, aren't they? You can just see them. Now, down the hole here, I'll get my trusty MIG welding pliers that I love. There's one of the valves. And we look for the seat on there. You can hear the roof crackling, it's quite loud. So hopefully it doesn't affect our video too much. It's the only time we've got to do the videos. So there's our other large valve. Then there's a spring. And then there's a little valve inside there. I don't know if I can get down and pick it up with my very handy pliers or not. Oh, that one's the valve. The valves come with it. And that's quite pitted on there, so we'll see how we go. There should be another one of them down here. I can probably hook all that out. There we go. That's this one. So that goes, well, that needs to go there really. And that's a setup. One's an inlet and one's a pressure. So this one comes up, the bottom one comes up when the piston draws back. Then when it pushes in again, well, the top one lifts up and that gives you your pressure. Well, we've got all that new. There shouldn't be anything else down in there. Yep, that's feeling good. Okay, wipe my hands. I need to clean a bit of rag. Here's one I prepared earlier. And we'll get our trusty nut gun going again. 1116. I'll have all my 1116 sockets worn out. There we go. That was a tight one. I thought I was nearly going to have to bloody break with tradition and go with hand tools. Okay, we'll just pop those out of the frame there. Okay, the bottom ones are longer than the top ones. You can see the housing's thicker down the bottom there. We'll work all that out later. Now that should come out. That's on a dowel. You can see the dowel down the bottom there. So if I get my knockometer, and there we go. So what you find with a lot of kits, and I don't know if this Sparex one's the same yet, I haven't looked for it, but a lot of the pump kits don't have these O-rings in them. They have the square gaskets. Now, I've got some O-rings I've brought home here to see if they're the right ones, and I'm going to, what we're going to do at Queensland Tractor Spares is actually we're going to offer these O-rings as part of the kits, because I've had mates before ring up and say, oh, I've got a late model thing, the O-rings aren't there. Well, they're not in a lot of the kits. They're not in any of the kits, really. So we have to measure these up. Once we measure them up, we'll add them to all of our kits. Now, I'll just have a quick look in this Sparex kit and see if they're doing the same. So we have the bearings, the main brasses. We have the valve kits with all the new valves and end caps and things in them. We have 2 sets of them. We have a new relief valve. We have the bush, the wear bush for the PTO shaft. And yeah, on the gasket set, see, there's no O-ring supplied. They supply the end plate gaskets, and that was for the early pumps, not for the later pumps. So Sparex are doing the same as everyone else. They also supply these copper washers for under the caps. And look, that works. While they're nice and soft and nice and soft, they'll clamp down on that. That's okay too. But yeah, they just don't supply these O-rings. And well, we sell quite a lot of different brands of stuff, and none of them that I know of have that O-ring in it. So from now on, ours will, and we'll work with that. So, all right. Now I've had a whinge, I'm right. Good to whinge your guts out about something, makes you feel better. Okay, so this other valve body is going to be the same as the first. And look, I'm not going to worry if I get these parts mixed up, because we have all new valves and things like that. That seal, that's still pliable. See, they don't get supplied in the kit either. And I will actually look for them, see if I can find them somewhere. They're a little bucket really, and as the pressure comes up, they must push that out hard against the bore here. So we'll rattle this end off, same as we did earlier. Shit, that's tight. I'm just making sure that's going the right way. There's one. Oh look, it was just bloody tricking us. Boy, lucky I didn't have to get my spanner out. Okay, so that can just go over there with the pile as well, and we'll just do the same over here. And I say one hit's worth 40 taps. Is that right? Okay, so there's the bores. We'll measure the bores later, and that's all the goodies. We'll just sit that upside down there, and you can see how much muck's been through a pump by looking at these valves. And that's, yeah, look, that's a bit sharp around the edge there. But anyway, we'll have to wash everything up first. Okay. What have we got here? Crikey, all this stuff. we should be able to bring this forward and up. Now this pin here, there's a little pin there, and there should be another one here, and they get caught. They sort of stop things moving back and forth. So we'll just... Now if I could just hit that properly. You can see him coming out there. Did I tell you about me big plots? There's our dowels, one dowel anyway, or one guide pin I suppose you'd call them. That can come up. Now if I can just turn that so the piston's clear. Undo this here. Where are we? This is a lock tab, so we undo that. And what's that? I reckon that looks like ½ inch. ½ inch? You bet. So that little tit holds this sleeve in place, and that's the sleeve on the fork here. So by undoing that, that lets this come forward. And by letting that come forward, that gives you the room you need to come forward and lift that out. Okay, so that's our main assembly. Now, we had to get it forward to get it off that collar, that little shelf, little collar on there. So that's just our bearing. There's a new one of them in the kit. Now, this little fork here, this little fork on the front of the pump here, I'll take that over. As this turns, this actually ends up going back and forth because it sits on here. And this control valve coming through from the other end actually sits in there, and that's how that gets that oscillation movement. So we'll put that down there. We have new bearings and all here. We have a new cam. So you can see this little shoulder in the main crank assembly here, and that goes that way. You can't fit it the other way, so that should give us an indication of how that should go when we go back together. So that's the housing popped apart. I don't think there's much else that we need to pull out of there. We'll go and give this a good clean. We'll wash all the parts up and we'll clean all the housings and things like that. Now the housing I'll just clean with a scraper to get the gasket off, and I'll probably take it out the back and pressure clean it. I should undo these ports. Now if you're going to take hydraulics off for an implement, I think that's called a BSP, pretty standard pipe. There's another one here, and by undoing them, that gives us the opportunity to clean all up through the galleries and all that. We can pressure clean all through, and as you can see, it needs a good bath. I'll just zoom you out a little bit so you can just see a little bit more of it. But yeah, it all needs a good bath. So we'll go and have a clean up. We'll come back. We'll possibly measure the pistons with the old ones and the new ones and have a little fiddle like that, eh?